Welcome to an ABC training video. In this first module, we will provide you with an overview of the basic principles of clinical documentation that will support compliant billing. This session is an introduction to a series of videos that will allow you to understand your critical role in the billing process. We hope you find this a useful overview of anesthesia compliance. Each subsequent module will explore a very specific aspect of anesthesia billing guidelines. To start this session, we'll focus on 4 specific areas of anesthesia compliance. They are the relationship between ABC and its clients, why documentation matters, the basic anesthesia charge and payment formula, the impact of EMRs. We're very glad to have you as a client. What can you expect from us, and what should we expect from you? As your billing company, we need you to document all the professional services you perform. Our coders will review your clinical documentation to determine the appropriate coding and charges for the services performed. Please note, our coding is only as accurate and complete as the information you provide us. Sometimes provider documentation may be missing a key element that coders need. Maybe the surgeon has not provided enough detail about the procedure for the coder to navigate the crosswalk to the correct ASA code and base value. Maybe the documentation of the nerve block or guidance does not meet current requirements. When this happens, we may have to come back to you for clarification. We call this a provider return. We hope it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, we need your help to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. If our coders have to come back to you for additional information, this delays the claim submission. Our goal is to submit a valid claim to an appropriate payer as quickly as possible. Your anesthesia record is the fundamental medical legal document. ABC coders are certified by the American Association of Professional Coders, the AAPC. Coders are trained to work from the documentation provided and only from the documentation provided. They do not make assumptions. Think of it this way. We submit a claim for each service you perform. A claim is a request for payment. If a payer questions a claim we submit, they may request the original documentation, which in your case may be the anesthesia record, a progress note, or a dictated operative report. This documentation must completely corroborate the code submitted on the claim. If not, the claim may be denied and further audit activity might be an issue. So what are the critical pieces of information we need? Our basic and minimum requirements are as follows. A valid post-operative description of the surgical procedure performed. It's not enough to know how the case was booked. We need to know what actually happened. A post-operative diagnosis that explains why the surgery was performed. The anesthesia time, the anesthesia end time, any significant or relevant patient or operative factors such as emergency, physical status that might impact the charge calculation. And these must be noted and justified. And finally, any separately billable services such as invasive monitoring, nerve blocks, or ultrasonic guidance. The anesthesia basic value includes all of the usual anesthesia services except for the time actually spent in anesthesia care and any modifiers. This from the ASA Relative Value Guide. Modifiers are intended to modify the basic value based on unusual or patient or operative factors. Time units are added based on actual time spent in the direct management of the patient. Invasive monitoring, nerve blocks, TE, and imaging techniques may be separately billable. Anesthesia is unique among medical specialties. All other specialty billing and payment are based on CPT codes and a fee schedule. The same surgical procedure will always result in the same charge, and each payer will assign an allowable based on the CPT code. Anesthesia charges are calculated and variable. The formula is like a taximeter. The anesthesia provider must decide when to click on the meter and when to click it off. Anesthesia is the only specialty where physicians get paid to medically direct non-physician providers. For now, our concern is the consistent designation of all providers assigned to the case, but there will be more on this in a subsequent module. The basic requirements for an anesthesiologist to be paid for medically directing a CRNA or resident are listed here. Let me review them for you. Performs a pre-anesthetic examination and evaluation. Prescribes the anesthesia plan. Personally participates in the most demanding procedures in the anesthesia plan, including, if applicable, induction and emergence. Ensures that any procedures in the anesthesia plan that are not performed by him or her are performed by a qualified individual. Monitors the course of anesthesia administration at frequent intervals. Remains physically present and available for the treatment of emergencies, and provides indicated post-anesthesia care. We will discuss medical direction and concurrency in more detail when we get to the subsequent module. It's our goal to ensure that each claim is complete and accurate, and that it would stand up to an audit, should this be necessary. This is why these training sessions are so important. Knowing the guidelines and knowing how they apply to your documentation is the key to compliant billing. It's a shared responsibility. We must know what is happening in your practice and how things may be changing, and you must know what is happening in the industry and what's being expected of you. Together, we can ensure you get paid appropriately for the valuable services you perform. The technology of clinical documentation is changing. EMRs are the wave of the future. Little by little, all anesthesia clients are implementing electronic anesthesia records, EARs. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's not for us to say. It's inevitable. What we do know is that such technological changes are not without their challenges. Automated anesthesia records have a tremendous potential to remind providers of key pieces of information needed for accurate documentation. Every system has a variety of hard and soft stops for this purpose. It's sometimes easy to create pre-formatted or template notes to address common documentation requirements, such as the requirements for billing nerve blocks. Such tools must be used judiciously. It's simply not realistic to think that the implementation of an EAR will make the transfer of case data from clinical venue to ABC simpler and more accurate. But more on this later. We hope this basic introductory overview of anesthesia billing has been helpful. As you work your way through the next modules, you're sure to gain a much more in-depth appreciation for the potential compliance challenges associated with anesthesia billing. We want to thank you for watching this program. We hope it's raised your consciousness about the importance of compliant billing. Thank you for participating in this ABC compliance program. We hope the information presented here is useful to you in understanding the requirements of compliant billing. We greatly value your comments and feedback on this program. For more information, feel free to write to jody.locke@anesthesiallc.com or even to call 619-249-9801. Please pass along any other comments or questions you may have to the ABC Compliance Department at compliancehelp@anesthesiallc.com.